For Heath, it is Monday, November the 3rd. Kath Lee, we are running out of months. We are
I know.
rapidly approaching. I got through Halloween. I know you did as well.
Yes, I saw your costume. It looked fantastic.
Thank you.
Looks like you had a good time.
Very much so. Had it's interesting. A lot of princess trick-or-treaters this year. There's always seemed to be like a theme, like with the kids, like whatever's, motivating them. And a couple years ago it was all Frozen stuff. And this year, like the first 7 or 8 kids that came to the house were all little girls, all dressed up like princesses.
Okay. So Return of the Princesses. I thought it was going to
Princesses are right.
be I thought it was going to be like the K-pop, with that Netflix, how Michelle's
Yeah,
family did.
yeah, yeah.
I thought that would be, and I figured there'd be a lot of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's.
I didn't see any of those. I did see a
Okay.
couple of the inflatables. The inflatables have become kind of the new fun thing where you get one of those suits that you zip up and then just it turns on the air compressor and you just walk around as like a giant whatever. And those I saw a couple of those out and about, but it was good. It was I got to tell you the weather for this Halloween fantastic.
Oh yes, oh yes. I think the inflatables would actually be better than you remember, like in the '80s, the costumes with the plastic masks,
Yeah, you can
and it
barely see through. You
right,
got sweaty in it. Oh yeah.
and it's like you had
Yeah.
to make sure the eyes were lined up right, where you couldn't see. Yeah.
Listen. As any kid who's ever been dragged into a Kmart will tell you, mom and dad sometimes they're like, you know what, you're an Autobot this year. Go.
Right, right.
I want to be an Autobot. Well, you're tough. You're going to be an Autobot.
Well, there you
So
go. Yeah, exactly.
anyway, oh, good stuff. Well, good to have you back, Penny did fine in your stead, but we're glad to have you back
Oh,
in the
well, I'm
big chair.
glad to
So
be back.
good. All right. Speaking of weather, Candace has our look at this week's fantastic forecast because it's beautiful outside, but as it always is, things are changing. Here's Candace.
For this week, Monday will be the coolest day of the work week. It's going to be cool. It's going to be breezy. We are tracking the arrival of our next cold front, much weaker than the last one that brought in the big blast of cold air last week. But it is going to keep temperatures below average, mid-70s for today. Overnight lows for tonight will go down even further, down into those 50s. Overall, though, throughout the next 7 days, we are looking mostly dry. The conditions are going to be kind of steady as a big ridge of high pressure builds in, but that same big ridge is going to start backing up those temperatures back into the 80s by the middle and end of the work week. So kind of widening out the view. This is the overall setup. Here's the approach of that next cold front. Again, it will continue to pick up a couple scattered showers in the forecast at best. We're going to hold that chance for rain only at about a 20% this afternoon, but do expect overall a mostly clear day today. Highs today in those mid 70s. Again, breezy at times, especially as that front finally moves through out of the northeast, about 10 to 15 miles per hour. Not only will it be breezy for your Monday, notice by about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon today, we will see those wind gusts upwards about 15 to 20 miles per hour, but we will still have that potential of seeing the breeze kick up once again tomorrow afternoon, turning more northeast with those gusts getting up to about 20 to 25. So breezy on Monday and Tuesday, which is why we do have a small craft advisory for boaters, as well as a moderate risk of rip currents along our beaches. Then as that front finally clears, it will be much cooler than how we started off this morning. This morning, most of us are in the 60s ahead of that front. Tomorrow will be a noticeable change in those temperatures. We're down to 47 early tomorrow morning in Ocala, down to 51 in Leesburg, 56 in Orlando. Still in those mid 60s though along the immediate coast. So for your Monday, again, highs today will be in those mid 70s, and then things are going to continue to warm up, both highs and lows as we continue into the rest of the week. Highs will be returning back into those 80s come Wednesday and Thursday. Quick check on the tropics. The good news is that big blast of cold air that came through last week really stabilized the atmosphere quite a bit across our nearshore waters up and down the eastern seaboard, the Gulf, the Caribbean as well, which tends to be more of our hot spots this time of the year. So overall, things are looking very good tropic-wise as well. NASCAR results through the full 7-day forecast. Again, just a slim 20% chance of rain for today as that front finally clears. I don't see much of us seeing any rain. And then notice those temperatures are going to continue to warm up. We're going to be right back into those mid 80s just in time for the weekend.
A fantastic forecast there from Candace. One of the stories that we've been following for quite some time, anyone who's been in Central Florida for like the last 2 decades is aware of this, is the notorious Xbox murders out of Deltona. This all happened back in 2004. 6 people inside of a home, 4 people break in, and it is going after what they said was a stolen Xbox as well as some clothing, and kill all 6 people inside, as well as beat to death a dog. Um, 2 of the people involved in this heinous crime were originally found guilty and they were sentenced to death. The other 2, one took a plea deal, the other got a life sentence. So, of the 4 that were involved in this, 2 got life sentences, 2 got the death penalty. Well, this was in 2006, and the structure that the state had at the time allowed for non unanimous death penalty decisions by the jury. And that got through various legal maturations, it got thrown out. So there had to be a resentencing, and this has been going on now, and for the families involved and everything, it just continues to drag on. Well, this morning, the two men who were responsible for this crime, who had been originally given the death sentence, and then because of legal things had it pulled back, went back before a judge again. This time, once again, finding out if they will be put to death. And as Angie Casada explained, she was actually in the courtroom as the judge handed down the final sentence.
Yeah, the judge said today marks a long-awaited milestone for everyone involved in this case. And she even thanked attorneys on both sides for their work over what she called a long and difficult road before formally resentencing both defendants to death.
I want to first take this opportunity to thank the lawyers and the teams that are supporting the lawyers in this case. I know it's been long, it's been arduous.
In 2004, 4 men broke into a Deltona home as revenge for a stolen Xbox and clothing. Using baseball bats, they tortured and killed 6 people and a dog. 2 years later, ringleader Troy Victorino and accomplice Jerron Hunter were sentenced to death, while the other men involved in the attack received life sentences. However, because the death sentence was not unanimous, it was thrown out. Now, after another sentencing, both men are headed back to death row.
After careful consideration, the court agrees with the jury's recommendation that Mr. Hunter be sentenced to death as follows. And after careful consideration, the court agrees with the jury's recommendation that Mr. Victorino be sentenced to death as follows.
Now, both men are expected to begin the appeal process almost immediately. Of course, we'll keep you updated on air and on clickorlando.com. Reporting in DeLand, I'm your Volusia County community correspondent, Angie Casada, News 6.
It is worth noting that in the states that still allow for the death penalty, most still require a unanimous death sentence. That is, all 12 members of the jury must recommend death. If you only have 11 or fewer, then it is a life without parole. But Florida is one of the few states that still allows for this sentencing structure. All right, well, to the other big story that we are following, it is day 34 of the government shutdown. TSA workers, people that work keeping our airplanes in the air, keeping the airports functioning, have now missed a full paycheck. We're starting to get calls into the newsroom from people who have interactions with different parts of the federal government. This includes both veterans and others who have to deal with the government, and they're starting to notice that things are just not happening. Things are the momentum of our government starts to fall apart at a certain point without people being there. And the people that are being told to go in and go work without a paycheck, it's hitting them hard. Add to all of this the question over whether or not supplemental nutrition assistance, SNAP benefits, would go out. Now, Florida had already started telling people back on, mid-October that come November 1, Saturday, there would be no November disbursement of SNAP benefits. A judge has intervened, and now things are kind of starting to happen, but the government is still shut down with no signs of progress for anyone to get anything done. The United States House of Representatives has conducted, I think, 20 days of business since September 15th. So that's not good. But as Nellie Brand explains, things are still happening in Washington, just nothing productive.
As the stalemate on Capitol Hill hits day 34, impacts nationwide grow by the hour. From airport lines stretching out the door in Houston Sunday.
This is insane. I mean, It looks like I will miss my flight.
To food assistance for low-income families, or SNAP, which came to a halt this weekend, impacting more than 40 million Americans, including Rebecca Hall, a mother of 5.
For people like me that pay PS&G, pay rent, transportation, stuff that the kids need, now you're going to have to pick and choose.
2 federal judges have ruled that the administration must tap into contingency funds to pay for SNAP during the shutdown and want an update from the government this afternoon.
It's very unfortunate that Donald Trump and Republicans have decided to weaponize hunger and withhold SNAP benefits.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the aid could start flowing again as soon as Wednesday.
There's a process that has to be followed, so we got to figure out what the process is. President Trump wants to make sure that people get their food benefits.
President Trump, in an interview with 60 Minutes, continued to insist Democrats must reopen the government first before Republicans negotiate over health care subsidies.
Sounds like it's not going to get solved, the shutdown.
It's going to get solved, yeah. Oh, it's going to get solved.
How?
We'll get it solved. Eventually, they're going to have to vote.
You're saying the Democrats will capitulate?
I think they have to. And if they don't vote, that's their problem. Now, I happen to agree with something else. I think we should do the nuclear option.
The president also said the Senate should get rid of the filibuster to allow legislation to pass with just a simple majority. Senate Majority Leader John Thune has said he's opposed to that idea. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
And in case you're wondering how many people in the state of Florida are on SNAP, the number is 2.9 million. It's a lot of people. All right, stay with us. On the other side of this, we'll have developments in a Netflix documentary case, as well as this recent time change we had, daylight saving, and what that's doing to your health. And our good friend, the penny. Not Penny as in the producer who was here with us on Thursday and Friday, but the penny itself, the little coppery thing. That's on the other side of this. Welcome back to News 6 Extra. I am Christopher Heath. I have a whole write-up here to introduce this next story from Mike DeForest. It is fascinating. I'm just going to, Kathleen, just play the story. This is good. It doesn't need any introduction from me. Here's Mike DeForest.
Susan Lawrence is currently serving a 25-year prison sentence for the shooting death of Ajika A.J. Owens. Recently, Lawrence wrote this letter from behind bars accusing the victim's children of defamation.
Is there anybody else in the house?
This video, featured in the Netflix film The Perfect Neighbor, shows Marion County deputies confronting Susan Lawrence just minutes after she admits killing her neighbor, Ajika Owens. Authorities say Lorenz shot the 35-year-old mother through her front door following a long-standing feud with Owens and her children.
The defendant is guilty of manslaughter.
After a judge sentenced Lorenz to prison, the victim's family sued her for wrongful death. Now, Lorenz is responding to that lawsuit in this handwritten letter sent from Homestead Correctional Institution. Adjika Owens and her children were trespassing, Lorenz writes. Miss Owens did not knock politely and speak reasonably on June 2nd, 2023. She pounded and screamed profanities like a lunatic.
I thought she was just going to break down the door.
Lorenz told detectives she shot Owens in self-defense. In her new letter, Lorenz denies throwing a roller skate at the victim's 10-year-old son shortly before the mother came to her door. Miss Owens' children had lied to her, she writes. I now wish to countersue for slander, libel, and defamation of character. Now, at this point, Lorenz has not formally filed any sort of countersuit. An attorney representing the estate of Adjika Owens says he is not able to comment on this letter due to the ongoing litigation. Mike DeForest, News 6.
Kathleen, have you seen that documentary on Netflix yet?
You know, I did. I watched it over the weekend. And it's surprising to me, even though I've covered the case and I knew about the case and everything, just how much led up to that night where she was shot and how many times the deputies were out there. It's really eye-opening, and the way they did it, piecing together all the body camera, it's a really good documentary. My wife watched it first, and then I watched it, and of course she had kind of the same reaction you did of just like, oh my, just as you kind of unpeel that onion. And I'm sitting there watching it, and media law professor hat on. I'm like, this is a credit to Florida's robust open records system, because the whole movie is predicated on the fact that in Florida, we start from a presumption that these kinds of records, body cams, calls for service, all of that is presumably open to the public. And it's because of that that you can tell this compelling story. And to your point, that backstory that it's never just the one incident. We all covered that one incident when the shooting happened, but it's all those other pieces that really get flushed out. And again, it's a credit to Florida's open records laws, and very compelling piece of television. Mike's story is fantastic in showing, this back and forth, and clearly, Susan still believes that she did nothing wrong, even though, now she's in prison for this. But yeah, absolutely fascinating. Right, and the whole thing, her argument is they were trespassing, but she was a renter, so does she doesn't own
she'd still have property rights.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
She would still have property. So trespassing would be interesting, because where AJ would be what we would call the curtilage, and that is the area of your home that's not inside your home. So you think of your garage doors open, that would probably fall within that. Your front porch would be that. It is a part of the home, but it's not inside. She was on the inside with the door closed and, conceivably the door locked. Now, had AJ breached the egress of the home, now all of a sudden you're dealing with, yes, she's actually now trespassing, but that's not what had happened. So, and the other question obviously that got brought up in the case was to look at, what is the reasonable amount of force necessary to solve the problem. Well, the necessary amount of force in this one conceivably would have been to keep the door closed. So it is a fascinating story. Great piece of reporting there by Mike, who continues to unearth all these just little details of these cases. So good stuff.
Absolutely.
How did you enjoy your extra hour of sleep this weekend?
You know what? I enjoyed it. My dog is confused.
Yes. Dogs can't tell time. Notoriously, dogs cannot tell time.
No. And so she's now, when we normally go out, she's wanting to go out, an hour difference, because she's not realizing the time change. So I have to kind of get her adjusted to this. She's kind of like a kid, they're not really adjusting.
I was out for a jog this morning. Trust me, this is all going to make sense. And one of the ads that played on the podcast I was listening to was about how you can order for your dog a Christmas book, something for the holidays. And they'll take a picture of your dog and they turn him into a little cartoon and they make a little story. And I'm like, aw,
Kathleen would love this. And then they said on the ad, they said, it's a book that will let your animal know how loved they are. And I'm running, and all I can say is out loud, I go, dogs can't read.
That is true. I guess you could read it to them, but yeah, nor can they tell time. They can't read,
No.
they can't tell time.
They can't read. They can't tell time. We do have a story here from CBS's Jared Hill on the health effects of the time change. And I will say, I think I've been on the record with this. This is the dumbest thing in the world. We set our clocks ahead, then we fall back. None of it makes sense. And all it does is serve to remind you those few things you still have in your life that you have to manually change the time. Because that's kind of where I'm at now. I wake up on, I wake up in the morning and I'm looking at my watch, and my watch is already, because it's a smartwatch, it's already reset the time. And then, you go into I got into my car had already reset the time. But the coffee maker, no. Our alarm clock in our bedroom, no. And it's all those things that you're like,
Right. That's how it is. The microwave, the stove, things like that I had to do.
Of course, then again, I don't know that I want my microwave and my stove connected to the internet and having some company out there harvesting the data of, Chris likes to make nachos at 3 a.m. What is he doing at 3 a.m.? We should send him information about, So.
Right. And that's true. That's how it would be, too. You'd all of a sudden start getting ads for whatever you heated up the night before.
Are you a middle-aged man who enjoys nachos while your family's sleeping? Why, yes, I do. How did you know that? Well, we here at Big Data. Yes, that's where that would go. All right. Here's Jared Hill's report.
Everyone has an opinion about changing the clocks.
I do like waking up with the sun in the morning, but it sucks having the dark nights. I think we should get rid of it.
It's really depressing. I'll gladly trade having sun at 6 a.m. for having it at 6 p.m.
Most Americans are not in favor of daylight saving time. The American Academy of Sleep Medicine is among groups urging lawmakers to eliminate seasonal time changes and enact permanent standard time.
On permanent standard time, we have more light in the morning, and we know that morning light is best for our mood and for our health. The second reason is that darkness in the morning actually has some safety risks. The third reason is because the alignment of the rising and setting of the sun is more consistent with our internal clock, people sleep better.
Poor sleep contributes to chronic health issues, including cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity, as well as anxiety and depression. While some experts say the autumn change can be easier to manage, there's still some tips to make falling back feel a bit better. That starts with getting at least 7 hours of sleep at night before and after the time change, and maintaining a consistent sleep schedule.
Adjust the timing of your daily routines and time cues right away starting on Sunday. Set your clock back 1 hour the evening before the time change so that when you wake up, it's easy to get on that new schedule. And then spend some time outdoors, get that morning light.
Bright light will help set your internal clock to the time change, which will help with sleep and being alert. Jared Hill, CBS News, New York.
Good solid advice there, Kathleen. What do you think? You going to go out, get some sunlight to reset your clock?
Sure. I mean, especially with the nice weather coming,
That is a good, fair point. When it's 90 degrees and 300% humidity, that's not as
not
as much fun. But this is good. I'll take it.
No, I'll take it. I think it's a little inconvenient, but I'll take it.
I'm with whatever rationale people need to have to get rid of daylight saving time. I'm for it. Let's just finish this one off. Okay, speaking of things that we can get rid of that are vestigial and hearken to another time, the penny. The U.S. Mint quit minting them 2 months ago. And now McDonald's says, you know what, we're going to have to start rounding your change. If you're not paying with exact change, we're going to round you up because, well, you got to get to the nearest nickel because we're running out of pennies. This is, listen, this is the least surprising thing that's ever happened. If you stop making something, it will eventually go away. And people were increasingly not using the penny. The penny was costing way more to manufacture than it was actually worth because its value was set at 1 cent. And it was costing more than a cent to make the penny. So we got rid of the penny, and now businesses are responding. Do you still use, Kathleen, do you still use cash?
Very rarely.
Okay.
Very rarely do I have any cash on me. If I have anything, it's maybe some coins. But I strictly debit card.
I keep a couple of quarters in the car just for if I have to go to Aldi and get a shopping cart, and I'll throw my change in there. And I've probably got, loose change if there, but like I can't think of the last time I was making a purchase and I opened my wallet and was like, oh, I will use cash for this.
No.
Been a while.
No.
I will say this on the long list, and I know you're keeping track of this, of the things Chris has beef with. I don't like when they give you your change and they put the cash in your hand and then they pour the coins on top. And then it's like, well, what am I supposed to do? Give me the coins first. I'll take those. Then you can hand me the bills. Why are you doing it in that other order? Because I'm just going to spill the coins everywhere.
Right. I've never really thought about that, but you're right. Because
things ramble around up here.
Right. But then you have to just dump it out anyways to get, I can see that.
See?
But when they're counting back your change, which nobody does really, they're supposed to do the coins first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But nobody does that.
A good friend of mine, his daughter got a job over the summer and working retail, and apparently she had never had to make change before. And that was like a foreign concept to her of like, what am I supposed to, you just handed me cash. I'm supposed to do what now? Like it was so outside of, and that's, increasingly with now it's, you mentioned your debit card, I've got friends of mine who it's on their Apple Watch and they just bing done. And it's now, you don't even need a wallet anymore. You're just basically down to your smartwatch. So yeah,
that
the penny's going away. The nickel will probably be next. Then the dime. We'll keep our quarters.
Yeah, maybe we can keep the quarters, But I mean,
do you think
we'll ever get to the point where we just are a cashless society? Like we just no more cash.
I don't know. I got to think it's got to have a value going forward somewhere, but yeah, increasingly, like if you can just, cut out the middleman, it's so much more convenient, better to, track it. I don't know. We could. Probably not in my lifetime.
No.
Maybe yours, not mine.
I'm not that far behind you. Probably not in our lifetime. But maybe.
Cash. You always have stuff you don't want a record of, right? Those business transactions you conduct, in a parking garage. Like, okay, hand somebody up. Yeah, plus, you know what? If we got rid of cash, we'd lose the great scene in the movie where you're paying somebody for something illegal and you hand them a briefcase and they click it open and they go, and then they hand you some tiara that they got and they can't tell you where they got it from. Kathleen.
That's true. That's true.
I meant to bring that up, and I'm glad I reminded myself. You were gone about the same time that all the accomplices started getting arrested for this heist.
Right.
And your whereabouts have still not been determined.
Right. I just threw them under the bus. Bus.
You had to take 2 surprise days off, fly over to De Gaulle Airport, snitch on everyone,
right,
and then come back and pretend like nothing had happened. I'm on to you.
Right. So I'm a little jet lagged,
If Interpol ever sees this episode, they will have questions. So.
Right. Oh gosh.
All right, welcome back. All right, well, we'll do this again tomorrow. So
yes.
Thank you, Kathleen. I appreciate all of your hard work. Thank you to Candace Campos for the fantastic weather and the weather forecast. And of course, thank you for watching. We'll be back here tomorrow at 12:30 to do this all over again. And of course, we'll be on the air today at 4 o'clock for News 6. Don't forget, we break news all the time on clickorlando.com. Otherwise, I will see you back here tomorrow at 12:30. Have a great one. Bye.